this morning, the explanation is an overall picture of different religious tradition and also secular ethics. Secular ethics, some people, some my friend, mainly some my Muslim friend, some Christian friend, you see, they they look secularism is something more like atheism. According to Indian understanding, not that way. Secular is actually respect, as I mentioned earlier this morning, respect all religions, and then one sort of unique thing is also respect non-believer. Actually, what's the secular ethics? Truthful, honest. Truthful, honest, very much related with mental level, more sense of concern of others' well-being. So genuine sense of concern of others' well-being, automatically there is sense of respect for others. So there is no sort of, attitude or thinking how to exploit others, how to bully, how to cheating. No. So one way, more compassionate sort of mind really brings self-confidence. Self-confidence brings you always talk truthful, honestly, and transparent. So therefore, the real meaning of secular ethics is warm-heartedness. This also not necessarily come from religious faith. Dogs, cats, or birds. Firstly, they very much appreciate our sincere affection. Then they themselves also, you see, if we show them sincere sort of affection, they're also showing us, respond to us. They are sort of also the sincerity, some kind of affection. See, dogs, they have not much sort of ability. They can't smile. Only licking, if you do that. Very beautiful, isn't it? Then cat, also you see, they cannot smile, but if we do that way, then there are sound, korr, 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 like that. And then also you see there are sort of nail, not nail one way, a sharp nail, not that way, or something like that. And then, very beautiful. So these even animals, firstly, they very much appreciate our affection. Then, to some extent, they also have the ability to respond. So this is not come from religious faith, but a biological factor. Those animals, you see, so those animals, for their survival, you see, entirely depend on others' care, others' affection. Then this emotional level, this sort of affection is automatically come, because it is necessary for their survival. Without mother's sort of affection, to their youngster, then mother will not take care. Without mother's care, they will die. So this is a question of their survival. So we inquired you, isn't it? But okay, no problem. On behalf of you, you see, the lamp. So, okay. so, so the warm-heartedness, sense of care, sense of sense of concern of others' well-being, is a biological factor. However, the biological factor, the affection or love, is firstly very much oriented about others' attitude. So that kind of affection can develop only your friend, not your enemy, because the attitude of the enemy, the very reason they sort of harming you or hostile you, so we call enemy. So love, compassion, which oriented about others' attitude, that kind of compassion is cannot reach your enemy. Now use our intelligence, including religious concept. Then enemy or troublemaker also part of humanity. Actually, your human brothers, sisters. So regardless their attitude, they are human beings. They are human brothers, sisters. On that level, you see, we can extend our love, compassion, regardless their attitude. That animal cannot do. We only human being use intelligence. So firstly, once you develop firm conviction, the real compassion is really ultimate source of your own happiness and also source of happy family, happy community, all these things. Other hand, self-centered attitude, no concern about others' well-being. Then cheating, bully, exploitation, then finally killing. War. War means sort of mobilized sort of violence, large scale. That's a war. War comes on the basis of strong concept, we and they. Take care, we. Take care, us. They not only, because of not only not taking care, but also, you see, they no hesitate to beat, to kill, to eliminate. So a lot of problems which we are facing now, and including corruptions. Corruption also, I think, form of violence. When we talk ahimsa, these people, you see, who no hesitation about using corruption, I think should think more seriously about the real meaning, the larger meaning of concept of ahimsa. Not only killing or bully, or telling lies, and exploitation, and corruption, these are the form of violence. So we Indian, when we promoting ahimsa, must include honest, truthful. So the corruption is totally against principle of ahimsa. Clear? Like that. So therefore, You see, that cooler, air cooler, you just hide. Of course, I respect one sort of lady quite a bit. I don't know, fat. So you also need that. Sorry. I always say I'm quite straightforward. So recently I was in Netherlands. So one of my long-time friend, one important sort of lady in Netherlands, overweight, very fat. Then I said, with respect, I also, you see, hinted the monk style, no dinner. Also, you see, may be useful. I told. And she very much sort of appreciated. So anyway, so we really can see there are a lot of man-made problem on this planet. Killing, even within same religious faith, Shia Sunni problem, and also Christian Muslim problem. Recently, even Buddhist Islam or Muslim in Burma, and sometimes in Sri Lanka, Buddhist Hindu problems. These are really, I think there are, I think sometimes the real source of problem is economic reasons or political reasons. But at the same time, they use human emotion. Religious faith, very much related with emotion. So use the name of religion. Then easily manipulate. Very sad. So religious faith become very much sort of the biased or too much attachment. So one time in Chile, Argentina, one meeting many years ago, one meeting with a religious leader, local religious leader, and also there one scientist, one great physicist. I know him. He mentioned the meeting. He's a physicist, but he should not develop attachment about his own scientific field. This is really wonderful. Then immediately I learned, or I felt, this is very true. I am Buddhist. I should not be attached towards Buddhism. Once you attached, then your view become biased. Then can't see the reality. So that's the problem. So there is sort of danger. Faith and attachment mixed. We must make clear. Faith based on reasons or genuine sort of, or say the unbiased faith is very, very important. Faith without attachment is very important. Then similarly, love without attachment. That is genuine sort of love. That we can extend towards entire sentient being. Love mixed with attachment, biased, cannot extend to larger sort of, how should I say, scale, like that. So, secular ethics, the real meaning of secular ethics is warm-heartedness and sense of concern of others' well-being on the basis, sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. That's secular ethics. Then automatically, their sort of way of life become honest, truthful. That eliminate fear, distrust, jealousy. That brings harmony and friendship and happy community, happy family, isn't it? So, the secular ethics, again, I think India's long tradition, so people, irrespective of whether believer or non-believer, secular ethics is related with entire human beings. Then one's individual who have real sort of conviction, the value of secular ethics, then religious sort of the tradition, then further sort of increase their ethics. Very good. Without that, the religious faith sometimes become biased and superficial, like that. So, according to Indian understanding, secularism not at all negative towards religion, but rather very positive, and actually basis of all major religious tradition is secular ethics. I think secular ethics from birth related. As soon as we're born, the mother take full care, and the child side also is full trust mother. So there's a biological factor, not come from religious faith. Clear? Yes? Okay, then explain.
जैसा कि हमने सुबह के सत्र में सभी परंपराओं के बारे में संक्षेप में वक्तव्य दिया, उसके बारे में बातचीत हुई तथा धर्मनिरपेक्षता के बारे में चर्चा हुई कि किस प्रकार से धर्मनिरपेक्षता अर्थात सर्वधर्म समभाव की जो भावना है, जो विचार है, वो किस तरह से होता है, वो संक्षेप में इसका वर्णन हुआ। मेरे कुछ मुस्लिम दोस्त भी हैं और वो ऐसा मानते हैं कि धर्मनिरपेक्षता का भाव ही सभी धर्मों का सम्मान कर सकता है, अर्थात सभी धर्मों में ये इस प्रकार की जो संभावना एक है उसमें ढूंढने को मिल सकती है। धर्मनिरपेक्षता सत्यता है, ये एक सत्य है कि धर्मनिरपेक्षता होनी चाहिए, इसके नकारा नहीं जा सकता है और दूसरों को समझना चाहिए और सम्मान करना चाहिए। अगर दूसरों को समझना चाहते हैं, सम्मान करना चाहते हैं तो केवल आप धर्मनिरपेक्षता अर्थात सर्वधर्म समभाव के द्वारा ही एक दूसरे को समझ सकते हैं। इसमें दूसरों को बर्बाद करना, दूसरों को नीचा दिखाना, बेवकूफ़ बनाना इत्यादि प्रकार की बातों की जगह नहीं है कि अगर कोई कहे कि मैं धर्मनिरपेक्ष हूँ या उसका पालन करता हूँ तो एक दूसरे का हम विरोध करें या बर्बाद करें, बेवकूफ़ बनाएं, तो इसमें ऐसी संभावना नहीं है। धर्मनिरपेक्षता का अर्थ एक दूसरे को साथ लेकर के एक दूसरे के साथ समभाव बनाने की ज़रूरत है। इसमें ईमानदारी, सत्यता और पारदर्शिता होनी बहुत ही परम आवश्यक है। अगर धर्मनिरपेक्षता में ईमानदारी, सत्यता और पारदर्शिता होगी तब हम कह सकते हैं कि वास्तविक सर्वधर्म समभाव अर्थात धर्मनिरपेक्षता है। और इसमें सर्वधर्म समभाव का अर्थ सभी धर्मों का सम्मान करना, एक जितने भी प्रकार के धर्म हैं उनका सबका सम्मान करना, किसी को नीचा ना दिखाना है। ये तभी संभव हो सकता है जब हमारा दिल अच्छा हो, मन अच्छा हो, तभी ये संभव हो सकता है। क्योंकि सभी लोग हमारी जो दयालुता है, प्रेम है, करुणा है, इसकी इच्छा रखते हैं। वो भी चाहते हैं कि हमें अमुक व्यक्ति से इस प्रकार की जो प्रेम या दयालुता है वो ये प्राप्त हो। तो हम लोग भी देख सकते हैं कि जानवरों में भी, अगर छोटे छोटे जानवर हैं तो उनको भी देखिए कि उनमें भी स्नेह होता है। अगर हम उनको प्यार से बोलें या उनके ऊपर प्यार से हाथ हाथ फिराएं तो वो धीरे धीरे चल के हमारे पास आ सकते हैं, खुशी जाहिर करते हैं। हालांकि वो अपने शब्दों में व्याख्या नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन फिर भी उनका जो शरीर है उससे देखा जा सकता है। ऐसा ही चाहे कुत्ते हो चाहे बिल्ली हो, ये आए दिन हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि किस प्रकार से जो हमारी स्नेहता प्रेम उसको किस प्रकार से अनुभव कर सकते हैं। इस प्रकार की जो भावना है, जिस प्रकार के जो जो शारीरिक जो गतिविधियाँ जो जानवरों में देखने को मिलती हैं वो किसी धर्म की वजह से नहीं होती, बल्कि एक शारीरिक बनावट अर्थात शारीरिक प्रेम की वजह से होती हैं। तो इसलिए जीवन जीने के लिए प्रेम की परम आवश्यकता होती है। अगर हम अपने जीवन को ठीक से जीना चाहते हैं तो प्रेम और स्नेह होना बहुत ही ज़रूरी होता है। जैसे एक उदाहरण के रूप में समझने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि अगर हमारे ऊपर माँ का स्नेह नहीं होगा, माँ का प्रेम नहीं होगा, तो शायद हम अपने जीवन को अच्छी तरह से नहीं जी सकते, शायद हम अपने जीवन को अच्छी तरह से आगे नहीं बढ़ा सकते। इसलिए जो स्नेह या प्रेम है वो बहुत ही ज़रूरत होती है। और अगर हमारा अच्छा हृदय होता है, अगर हमारी सोच विचार अच्छा होता है तो दूसरों के साथ व्यवहार भी अच्छा होगा। अच्छे हृदय से अच्छा व्यवहार बन सकता है। अगर हम ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा दोस्ती चाहते हैं, ज़्यादा दोस्त बनाना चाहते हैं, तो प्रेम ही ऐसी एक जड़ है या प्रेम ही ऐसे एक रास्ता है जिससे हम बहुत सारे दोस्तों को बना सकते हैं, लोगों को दोस्त बना सकते हैं। अगर हम अगर कोई स्नेह, अगर हम दूसरों से स्नेह करेंगे, प्रेम करेंगे तो दोस्त बनेंगे, ना कि दुश्मन। हम दुश्मन उसे कहते हैं जो अगर मुझे कोई नुकसान पहुंचाता है, मुझे हानि पहुंचाता है, तो उसे हम दुश्मन कहते हैं, दुश्मन की संज्ञा देते हैं। तो अगर जो कोई मुझे लाभ पहुंचाता है, हानि नहीं पहुंचाता, उसे हम दोस्त कहते हैं। तो धर्म के अनुसार अगर हमारे अंदर प्रज्ञा है, धर्म के अनुसार अगर सोचा जाए, अगर हम ज्ञानवान हैं, अगर हमारे अंदर प्रज्ञा है, तो उसका अच्छी तरह से उपयोग करना चाहिए और अच्छी तरह से किस प्रकार से हम स्नेहपूर्वक जीवन जी सकते हैं, एक दूसरे से लगाव रख सकते हैं, सीखने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए। तो अगर जहाँ तक दुश्मन की बात की जाए कि दुश्मन कौन होते हैं, दुश्मन भी मनुष्य होते हैं। तो उन लोगों को भी स्नेह की आवश्यकता होती है, उनको भी प्रेम की आवश्यकता होती है। हालांकि सभी सत्वों में, सभी जीवों में इस चीज़ की परम आवश्यकता होती है और एक दूसरे को दिखाते भी हैं। लेकिन जहाँ तक जानवरों में देखा जाए तो उनके अंदर इस प्रकार की जो भावना है, इस प्रकार की स्नेह की जो स्नेह दिखाने या फिर दूसरों को दिखाने की भावना होती है, उनके अंदर ज़्यादा न होकर के कम होती है, लेकिन उनमें भी इस प्रकार की भावना देखने को मिलती है। तो सबसे पहले हमें अपने आप में स्नेहपूर्ण व्यक्ति बनना चाहिए, फिर उसके बाद परिवार में एक दूसरे से प्यार करना चाहिए, समाज में प्यार करना चाहिए, देश के लोगों से प्यार करना चाहिए। अगर हम इस प्रकार क्रम से अपने प्रेम अर्थात स्नेह को बढ़ाते जाएंगे तो ये जो हम खुशी की या सुख की कामना करते हैं इससे प्राप्त हो सकती है। अगर हमारी सोच संकुचित होगी तो हम दूसरों को दुख देंगे और खुद दुखी होंगे। इसलिए अपनी सोच को बड़े रूप में करने की आवश्यकता है। युद्ध आए दिन झगड़े या युद्ध होने की वजह है कि मैं और मेरी की जो जटिल भावना है, मैं और वे, मैं और दूसरे की जो जटिल भावना हमारे अंदर हो जाती है, इसकी वजह से युद्ध होते हैं, इस वजह से झगड़े होते हैं। क्योंकि हम उन्हें दुश्मन समझते हैं, ये मेरा है, ये पराया है, इस प्रकार की भावना जब अंदर आ जाती है तो युद्ध शुरू हो जाते हैं, झगड़े शुरू हो जाते हैं और दूसरों को हराना चाहते हैं, उन्हें नीचा दिखाना चाहते हैं, अपने को श्रेष्ठ दिखाना चाहते हैं। इस वजह से युद्ध होते रहते हैं। तो भ्रष्टाचार भी, जहाँ तक भ्रष्टाचार को देखा जाए, वो भी एक प्रकार की हिंसा है, हिंसा का रूप है। तो अहिंसा का अगर सही रूप देखना चाहते हैं, वास्तविक रूप देखना चाहते हैं, तो ये भ्रष्टाचार से मुक्त होना चाहिए, तभी हम समझ सकते हैं कि ये अहिंसा है। अगर भ्रष्टाचार होगा तो एक प्रकार का वो भी अहिंसा, एक प्रकार की हिंसा होती है। झूठ बोलना, लोगों को परेशान करना या फिर दूसरे लोगों को बेवकूफ़ बनाना इत्यादि प्रकार का भी एक भ्रष्टाचार का रूप है। ये भी कह सकते हैं कि ये भी एक भ्रष्टाचार है। दूसरों को दमन करना, दूसरों का अधिकार छीनना भी भ्रष्टाचार होता है। इसलिए भ्रष्टाचार का सिद्धांत और अहिंसा का सिद्धांत एकदम विपरीत है। हम अगर अहिंसा की बात करें, अगर हम भ्रष्ट हैं और अहिंसा की बात करें तो शायद इसका मेल नहीं होगा। हमें वास्तव में इस धरती पर अगर हम देखें तो हम लोग इस धरती पर, इस दुनिया में अनंत प्रकार की समस्याएं से जूझते हैं। अन्य प्रकार की समस्याएं हमें रोज़ हमारे जीवन में आती रहती हैं, सामना करते हैं। जैसे कि आज धर्म के रूप में देखा जाए, आए दिन मुस्लिम समाज जो है उसमें शिया और सुन्नी दो समुदाय के लोग एक दूसरे झगड़े करते रहते हैं। क्रिश्चियन धर्म में भी दो प्रकार के समुदाय, उनमें भी झगड़े होते रहते हैं। और इसके अतिरिक्त भी कुछ एक साल पहले या आजकल भी बौद्ध धर्म में देखा जाए कि बर्मा में बौद्ध धर्म और मुस्लिम धर्म के लोगों के साथ भी झगड़े हुए। श्रीलंका में भी इस प्रकार के कुछ धर्म को लेकर के या धर्म अनुयायियों लोगों के बीच में भी झगड़े हुए। इस प्रकार की जो समस्याएं हैं वो समस्याएं ठीक नहीं होती। तो ये झगड़े कभी कभी तो हो सकता है कि आर्थिक दृष्टि से हों, या फिर कभी कभी देश की हिसाब से भी झगड़े होते रहते हैं, या फिर कभी कभी हमारी भावनाओं को ठोस पहुंचती है उस वजह से भी झगड़े होते रहते हैं। और ज़्यादातर धर्म के अगर झगड़े देखे जाएं तो धर्म के प्रति बहुत ज़्यादा श्रद्धा होने की वजह से भी झगड़े हो जाते हैं। क्योंकि उसके प्रति बहुत ज़्यादा आसक्ति पैदा हो जाती है। अपना मेरा धर्म ऐसा मानने की वजह से उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा लगाव उत्पन्न हो जाता है, इस वजह से भी झगड़े होने लगते हैं। तो हाल ही की बात है, अर्जेंटीना में बैठक के दौरान उसमें वैज्ञानिक लोग थे, पढ़े लिखे लोग थे, भौतिक शास्त्री लोग थे और बहुत सारे लोग उसमें थे। तो उसमें से एक वैज्ञानिक ने कहा कि मैं अपने क्षेत्र में कुशल हूँ, मैं इसमें काफ़ी ज्ञान रखता हूँ, समझता हूँ, लेकिन मैं कभी भी मैं अपने क्षेत्र में आसक्ति नहीं रखता, इसके प्रति लगाव नहीं रखता कि मेरा ये क्षेत्र है, मेरा ये विभाग है, इस प्रकार की आसक्ति नहीं रखता हूँ। क्योंकि अगर मैं आसक्ति रखूँगा तो शायद उसकी जो सत्यता है उसको ठीक से नहीं समझ सकता। उसके बाद मैंने भी, जब ये वैज्ञानिक ऐसा वक्तव्य दे रहे थे तो मैंने भी ऐसा सोचा और समझा कि वास्तव में श्रद्धा या विश्वास अगर बहुत ज़्यादा रखेंगे तो थोड़ी सी मुश्किल हो सकती है। तो श्रद्धा का मतलब यहाँ आसक्ति नहीं रखना चाहिए। आज ज़्यादा आसक्ति होने की वजह से ये धर्म का अभ्यास करने में भी खतरा हो सकता है। तो इसलिए मैंने प्रण किया कि धर्म का अभ्यास करते हुए बिना आसक्त किए मैं धर्म का पालन करूँगा। इसलिए बिना आसक्ति का प्यार होना चाहिए। अगर हम किसी से प्यार या स्नेह करते हैं तो उसमें लगाव या फिर बहुत ज़्यादा आसक्ति नहीं होनी चाहिए। अगर आसक्ति रहित प्रेम है तो वो सच्चा प्रेम होता है। धर्मनिरपेक्षता का सच्चा अर्थ अच्छा हृदय होना होता है। अगर हमारा हृदय अच्छा है तो हम कह सकते हैं कि धर्मनिरपेक्षता का सर्वधर्म समभाव की जो सिद्धांत है वो यहाँ पर लागू हो सकता है, अर्थात समझ सकते हैं। आज इस दुनिया में लगभग 7 अरब की जनसंख्या आबादी है, और अगर इस आबादी में हम सभी लोग अपने व्यक्तिगत रूप से समझें कि सभी लोग मेरे जैसे हैं, मेरे जैसा हृदय है, जो मैं चाहता हूँ उस तरह से हो जाए, अर्थात एकता की भावना अगर आ जाती है तो उसे हम सच्चा सर्वधर्म समभाव कह सकते हैं। मगर घृणा, तृष्णा इत्यादि या फिर दूसरे से जलन, एक दूसरे से क्रोध इत्यादि की वजह से सर्वधर्म समभाव की जो भावना है वो हमारे अंदर उत्पन्न नहीं होती है। भारत में धर्मनिरपेक्षता का अर्थ है, यहाँ भारत का जो संविधान भी बना हुआ है वो भी धर्मनिरपेक्षता अर्थात सर्वधर्म समभाव के सिद्धांत के अनुसार ही बना हुआ है। और इसी वजह से भारत में सारे धर्मों के में जो देखने की समानता है समान रूप से देख सकते हैं। तो इसलिए मैं कहता हूँ कि सबसे पहले जो आपके सिद्धांत हैं, जो भारत का सर्वधर्म समभाव का सिद्धांत है, उसको बढ़ाना चाहिए, उसको अच्छी तरह से समझना चाहिए। क्योंकि भारतीय जो संविधान है उस संविधान में भी धर्मनिरपेक्षता का कोई बड़ी सकारात्मक रूप से कहा गया है, बड़े ही पॉजिटिव रूप से कहा गया है कि इसको पालन करने से, इसके अनुसार चलने से किस प्रकार से हम अपने जीवन को अच्छा बना सकते हैं या किस प्रकार से हम दूसरों के साथ सही ढंग से रह सकते हैं। धर्मनिरपेक्षता का सिद्धांत या सर्वधर्म समभाव का सिद्धांत केवल देश पर ही आधारित न होकर यहाँ तक कि देखें हमारे जो माँ बेटे अर्थात परिवार के पिता, माँ बेटा या बेटी के साथ भी संबंध सर्वधर्म समभाव के अनुसार ही होना चाहिए। एक दूसरे के साथ संबंध भी इस प्रकार से अगर हो तो कहीं जा कर के सच्चा सर्वधर्म समभाव की भावना हो सकती है।
Now about Buddhism. I think now I speak Tibetan. 다 산지 좀 된데 여기 다 추주 이 조들도가 지금 다람을 이로 쉬는 시리 가다 지금 섬리야 정다전에 로스 장대 아니 로즘기 봐줘야지 세상을 안한게 아니 가서 우리 보게 대화 주야다 동에서야 세야지 저 아니 디두기 규디 아니 다 지금 자주를 투등에 지금 판별정신 시한의 판별정신 자주디 상부체 개화체 시한의 뇌베지기 자주디 년바체 다 자주성 레 karmaslo나 레 맞아 다디 조에네 꿀루고 타네 바나 차와도 차와메 봤어야지 타르도나 삼로를 투주고 그래 샴페인 걸로 여버지면 이나 치 지금 류가가 넘주 수르지베이네 데 차와메 봤죠 그래서 꿀룬디 지금 낙심 내심 고고 루치 된데기다 꿀룬지 신세 여베이나 치 넘주 배 가서 시시 투어 배 이동원 집에 있네 당연하다 차차되게 하래 서들이 인도산에 다조 삼로리가 도르고 알아 지금 자주 상해서 자 도서디 삼로 도되지 대들이 인도산에 다좀 된데기 디송도가 tumnum tibu chui mitrushing roya dunga chaga misila niji tokpa shana pomindi chuni tempa tempa chowan joro songde dunga mindu dewan debe ane simjen ki ane dunga di be chaga saya ya maris dunga ki ju tikpa di chu chuya ya maris 대신도 좀 되는데 랑게 투주를 여대be 빵도가 연된디 두지를 마 지야야 말이지. 다 좀된데기 컨디션이 미리 판단된 것을 봐이나. 좀 된데 정리기. 뭐로바 남이 내거네 송을지기. 배 간다지 심 뒤에 르버 멍구지다 냠신 나네. 된데기 타네 애니베 빵도 타르신 버지. 다 중대버지. 된데기 다 냠용 거 타네. 밀마니 가서 보겠다. 랑도가 내더니. 다 랑도가 내더be 거네. 아니 뒤제 규기 간다지기니 녀몬다 대 아니 그냥 랑배지 레디디 아니 봐 매바 차지. 도신다. 아니 내거를 더도 근데 줘야지. 용기가리스 다 디송이 버리. 직접.
भगवान बुद्ध का धर्म क्या है इसके बारे में संक्षेप में सुबह में वर्णन हुआ
So with regard to the teaching of the Buddha, as I said this morning, the main teaching of the Buddha, Bhagavan Buddha, is how to train your mind and transform and gradually transform your mind. And therefore, what we call as pain and pleasure have their own causes. And those causes which bring about happiness in others and are positive, and then those causes which bring about harm to others is called bad negative karma. In other words, karma means action, and so whether a cause that action becomes a positive or negative hinges on the motivation, our motivation. And therefore, an action which might apparently look like harsh or rough towards others, but basically when the motivation is to help someone, to a positive one, then those actions also could be considered non-violent or not harmful actions, whereas certain actions which might look nice, pleasant to others, apparently, but then if the motivation is to cheat to others or to with that kind of ulterior motivation, if you do those actions, then even those are could be considered negative. Therefore, positive and negative actions are very much dependent on our motivation, and therefore, in the case of all our pain and pleasure, the Buddha has said that the Buddhas or the sages, the great sages, do not wash away the sins of sentient beings. They do not the sufferings, and they do not take away the sins, and nor do they transpose their realizations into others. But how do they help others is by giving teaching from the Buddha's own experience, how to avoid what are the negative causes and then how to take up the positive ones. And so in this way to gradually transform our mind and finally reach the ultimate goal of happiness.
년가 쇼스는 러야게 룩수 야마레 서쯤데 정리게 추소 뭐도 보도 소 때문에 좀 주고도 좀 되게 나와서지 이렇게 숨도 봐 인터넷에 지금 사람이 이제 뒤져든 저기 총고 코로나 센터 쉬니 도스는 이 유와르나슬이야 아니 총고 코로나 이번에 다 되네걸라 좀 되게 주로 총고도 당고 송인도산에 다 담바시사도 송도가 다들 담바시 데 송단들이 아니 dini dunga ma temba o shesogi dinshi ngol tamba ngol ndewa tene ni dunga sheber jo kunju pawan sha shesogi ene chawar ndewa tene ni dunga sheber sheba charme shesogi ene chawar debudo chawar ndewa asen ndewa sum dukse sungdowa denshi sungdan jibaredi 저저 denshi redi 이내 당구디기 담바시 들리지 세니 가서 그래 뭐였니 주디마 아직 송 되네 뭐였니 주디 이베이나 다 디가는 랑도 죽도 근데 저거랬으나 아니 동네 시합을자 군중 빵을 자세네 엔다 다시는 처치단 순거야 랑도치단 순거야 다 처스로도 랑도 거 등교하러 봐 다전에 동네 시합에서 시합을 잘면 시속이 저 저부터 잡을 내가 써야 되기電실라 랑도 죽도 잖아 아니 기반 가려야 돼 저부 가르쳐야 그랬어 다 되네 저 저부터 잡을 내가 써야 돼서 나가 슝드스 나라 아니 시내주 시 람 데부스니 시내주치 시내주 되더니 아니 랑도치야 랑도를 럼니 시내치 공부를 누치는 줘야 돼 람체 될 때네 아니 방도 배 탈침시 연구를 했더니 데부스체 진짜 안 되디 뭐는 대배제라 동해시벌 자 동해시 군중방 고봉어도 잘 남고버 자스니 죽도 수니 대들 제배이나 아니 동해 타다 세버 그게 빵 두어 중국에 인도 진짜긴 대부분도 제가 그돌라 동해 라를 이니 시버차요 말이 군중 라를 빵차요 말이 고바 모두 제스베처라 라를 모두 차요 말이 이니 람 곰네 고바 탈치베 내가올라 라를 이니 고야요 말이 스타티 수도가 사다 디시람 데우사디 디 가르딘 것을 라바이나 초징네 아니 지금 대화도 동에서 니가로 규도 깨내는 요리 신이 균제된 주사도 송래 버티도 스무 반다 사다 산제베 쳐 투모모이부터 들려도 와 버티도 스무 반다 사기 될라 균제기 된 주사 지겨래 다 지송도 와 디다네 디두세야디 규도 깨내는 요리에서 디송 다전에 다들 인도 대부 동네 레 타르거나 대부 동네기 규디 짜잖니 규들은 냠부때니 규디 방고요 그래서 규디 방나 규디 왕가 주는 대부들이 타그레스 과학된서야지 아주 디긴 되고야래 안다끔들 과학된 게 대화서야지 소화되게 좀 말해 동네 영역이 규 싸워는 파지 뽕투고 주나 아니 단도 대화 잡으래 진짜들라 아니 gyukangshi debu jeyaga niba yodeba te nyambu jebe toki kaane gobar cheba sachita gobar cheba takata nyambu jebe toki ga songa tatela gobar sakwa oda te lar ene mindibe dunge da dunge gyuti lar kimmirungdu cheba chigi nyambu jebe toki goten sache ta dinde chigi ene 톱도 롱아 톱롱이 뭐 된지 통인도 전에 딱 대탑에 털 람리야 로비야기 아니 배주자다 되니들 리그로 봐 디베디 잡은 거 규라면 나라 내니 셰셰 내기 주는 방절라 된내 톱서 맨에 땜버 자왔다 동에 규도 된거 보다 대신람 셰자 방절 르버샤시 땜버 차스 릭마다 릭바 레바这其实嘛，这个是代表啥是送难心，我觉得这些。这这的印度，澳洲的那个电视全国都送一波的。我也不知道，你知道的。
भगवान बुद्ध ने बुद्ध की बात करने के तुरंत बाद धर्म का उपदेश नहीं दिया भगवान बुद्ध का जो विनय था जो विनय पिटक
So with regard to the teaching of the Buddha,
बिना धर्म का उपदेश
Buddha himself, of course, didn't give teaching right away after becoming enlightened, until he was requested teachings, and therefore in the Vinaya Sutra, in the Vinaya teachings, the Buddha has actually said that unless someone comes to you and requests for the teaching, you should not go forward saying that you are going to give teaching, and therefore this is also what the Buddha himself did. After getting enlightenment, until he was requested by gods and other humans. He didn't give any teachings to others. And therefore, at the request of Brahma and others, then he first gave the teaching in Varanasi. The teaching of the wheel of the Dharma was turned. And so during that teaching, he gave the teaching on the Four Noble Truths. And so regarding the Four Noble Truths, the teaching was given in 3 times. First, repeating or talking about, referring to its nature, and that this is suffering, this is the cause, the origin of suffering, this is cessation, and this is the path. And then after having said that, he went on to give teaching on the same Four Noble Truths, but emphasizing on the function of these. In other words, he said we should know suffering and overcome the origin of suffering and actualize cessation, and then cultivate the path. And then after having said that, what is the purpose of this teaching is that after knowing the nature of the suffering and so forth, then what we should do is taught secondly, and then the Buddha gave the teaching on the Four Noble Truths with regard to the result that the practices bring, avoiding negative actions and so forth, overcoming the origin, we can put an end to the suffering, and then actually by applying or cultivating the path, that we can actually actualize this true cessation within ourselves. And therefore he said at the end, during the third set of this turning of the wheel of the first, the Four Noble Truths, he said there is no suffering, but there's nothing to be known, and overcome the origin of suffering, but there is nothing to be overcome, and then one should actualize the cessation, but there's nothing to be actualized, and then we must cultivate the path, but there's nothing to be cultivated. So what this means is that what the Buddha was saying is that once you reach the goal of cessation and having overcome suffering and so forth, I mean, of course, there's nothing left to be overcome. Therefore, he says, once you fully understand what suffering is directly, then there's nothing to be known. Once you have overcome the suffering completely, then there's nothing to be overcome. Once you have actualized the cessation, the final goal of liberation, in other words, there's nothing to be actualized. And then once you have cultivated the path fully, there's nothing to be cultivated. as such. And so because of this, he gave the teaching of the Four Noble Truths for the third time, pertaining to the results called that is brought about by engaging in the practices. And so, with regard to these Four Noble Truths, what is shown is that the suffering and its causes have their own. Suffering has its own causes. Our pain and pleasure, in the words, have their own causes and conditions, and the cessation and the path that brings about it have also to do with the working of the causality. And therefore, when we understand that pain and pleasure, suffering has its causes, and therefore, once you understand that it's fully, then there's nothing to be cultivated. The suffering will not arise in oneself once you have overcome it completely. And so, what this means is that once you understand what cessation is, how you reach this goal of cessation, there's nothing to be reached or cultivated. In other words, so in the Maitreya Buddha also said, use the analogy of sickness, its cause, and then the taking medicine, and then the recovery of one's health.
간다 이니 미다서 주루사 되기 록수 다 시게 미다발라 딱버려 샴바 동네를 대화를 샴바 미장월로 싸워를 샴바 아니 가래 다음에 발라 다도 샴바 전에 진짜기다 록수 주루송도가 규미도 잡아다 시 가다와 진짜들이다 지금 이거 나이 전개입니다 저는 어다 전에 그 록수 주루 전에 데이터 그게 냠보로 서울다 데 동다 에노 미다서 주도 송제 다 되는 인도산에 다 도마 지금 미상원으로 싸우셔봐 달라되네 착바지야 아니 다가는 시기에 미상원으로 싸우셔봐 숙성부 옆에 거돌이야 아니 대직 응징진 되게 터네 아니 딱벌 따와로 대주 터네 아니 아주 친구로 로드도 되든 대바 친구로 대바도 게임도 와 근데 이동을 통해서네 디베트 시부지게 다들 다다 이동와 이봐 다 디베 딱 때문에 여러 된데 타네 그 착배 녀문 게야로 다가는 신기 지기 시단자이네 유체 믿고 디베 랑 믿고 배 유징면에 믿고 배 시부진데 통 대한데 내 원시버지기 아주 뒤지한다 아메리게 미싱 강에 채팅에서 매주징의 지기 생리부지기 그러나 다 들이켜서 냐만 나 콩토베 그도로 로지 접시리 다 들이켜서 로 구주거잖아 내가 콩한테 쉬어야겠어 아 그거 중지 제거 삼전데 콩 로지 접시 그도로 나 사실 토브리 들으잖아요 콩기스도 콩가 대비지 됐어 전혀 콩기 미 셰단 라베 그도로 셰단 랑세 유디 치 미두고 통구야 됐어 디 치 미두고 통대하기 미두고 자적 고주디 남도가 세버리스 뭐이니 좀 말했어 공지스기 단디 고불루루기 아니 자셔나래 다른 소야래 녀몽 계단생의 취미이지 남도기 유상년도 줬다니 아니 차단지그래 소야 세버샤르셔대 러시아도 하더니 인도산에 어다 간다이니 미상월로 싸우신 아니 된대게는 딱버지별로 된대 용기가 인도산에다 잠반이샤 시사 되게 냐라 류 잠반이샤스네 류 미상와 지금 미상에 소주사 된대게다 리베런 신이 봐봐 지금 이동 근데 집에 있네 파티 지금 교모 제부 근데실 딱 보이나야 가다 미상월에 줍등에 미상의 정신 된대 인도 통일도산에 가서 입도 속도 가도도 렉셔트넬레 시우지게 배 싸운진벨 착바디하고라 팽거봐 앤디 계지 직배 등이 봐 메다고 통인도 자네 다 디제리샤 가자 류 전반시 상담다니 동네 담발은 죽었어 소 전반시 상담다니 군중 에 소 디둘 때네 소 대화라 민정원들 세바 소 동네라 자원들 세바 다 된지기니 간다베 차단기야 세바 니부도 슬레임도 와 센터디 가서 더시 직시 시시르베 땡오 조단디 저는 순다다 남들은 순다 또 메다시도게 이거다 또 메다치 자 제니 또 간다 되게 초 대화라 민정원들 세바 초 동네라 자원들 세바 아니 소당념을 가서 시시사를 전에와 다 도시고래 다디기 류점반샤 소점반샤 상담다니 군중 차단 걸로 뒤들 봐 그게 가서 로정단직 되네 semchabanisha samdang zane sem keji do fa gyurchinche keji jigdu hashirwada ane 그도 samdang zane ane 남버십에 규세네 르체네 타녀도 작별거는 샤마도 거봐 그로 samdang이나 직다 데모 타다 주슨 쓰고리 아니 투숨 샤는 두자네 대변 가사를 마음번이 중주리 다 다다왔어야지 마다 마셔병하는 샤나 다다와 샤도도 다시잖아 다다와니 하면도 배는 배는 계시지 보이는 배는 계시 남아디 대발이 요마리 계시 치면디 기규리 안다 세리고 뭐 주요 말한다 아니 다다와디에 까르마다 까르샤다 까르마다 까르샤시는 바바 처음 보이는 다다와니 하면도 까르샤 참을 갈 처음 보이는 치 대발이 치 마음벌이 다다와면도 봐 그래서 those sometimes 안에 아니 강사서야 돼 시베 줄을 때는 딱 말해 강을 때는 딱왜 시코라 짜요는 니기매도 차인도 자네 아니 다도 다와선 걸로 또 구조된 것이도 가 사들이 이랬다 다다 차라면 그 샤도로 보다 다도 다와 차라면 그 샤도로 봐 어디를 샤 세상가 메다 말에 류처번이셔 초화처번이셔 sem처번이셔 아니 달라되는다 지기 군인 유무 초기 년별 초디디 가서 당도 낸 거야다 군인 유무 초디디 바다 당도 밀려붙여야 되디 아니 최첨번이 시작하는 리도가 세상에 정말시 담바시를 죽도 안 되는데 레고도 근데 지금 바로 토윈드잖아요 아니 다 배수시하게 되니 레인 거로 와 전에는 양다 봉시 다 도세네 아니 준주고 도로 깨니 전에 로장야 아니 무튼이 야고 제베이나 아니 두베즈르기 강벌어서 왔던 얘기다 띵인지들이 주야 된데베다 내가 잡아채니 싫어고 보겠다 인루 잡아채니 선을 보게 해봐 더더더라 아니 제시베 띵인지 이게 보게 믹체 띵인지 보게 조금 전에 가다 짠조 자금도 조금 숨지신데 도스 다 고민도 전에 다 될래야 아니 가서 저거디 다소 옹봉하스다 토마다 간다 검제 된텔라 아니 이 다음에 다 대바 대 되니까 누버지 대바 누버 아니 되는 참바 띵인지 싫었어야 되게 다소 옹봉가 동마 되는 정주연나 된 팔랑연나 제사티 도 선례고도 간다 띵신 남샤디 시베체 다 디도네 아니 차당 그걸로 리아 녀못단다디 도스 레인 거래 다디 아니 발리기 중국감네 냠네스나디들이 레장의 중국 나라이네 창조소든 남그 싸워로 차듯이 댐바시도 창조소든 남디도 싸워래 간다 좀된 얘기 아니 대시 총고 송셔버디 산제베 최기 좀으로 돼 라베 소리를 샤 drum the lambe sorge.
So, with regard to the Four Noble Truths, within the Four Noble Truths, we have the four characteristics of the Four Noble Truths. They each have their four characteristic features, such as the Four Noble Truths. The first Noble Truth, the suffering, Noble Truth of suffering, has the four characteristics of impermanence, and then called suffering, and then empty, being empty, and empty of any purity, and then selflessness. Whereas, as opposed to these, we usually cling on to this impure body as being pure and so forth, and then accordingly develop attachment to it. And then from this, what happens is when you are too attached to it, then you develop the sense of its permanence, that it's eternal and so forth, and therefore you have this wrong notion of something which is permanent as being permanent, and then also that something which is in the nature of suffering as being blissful or joyful or pleasant and so forth. And then accordingly you also develop that there is some kind of independent selfhood in it. And so in this way we have these four wrong notions of the first noble truth of suffering. And because of this desire that we develop in relation to this kind of body, which is impure, seeing it as having some kind of objective existence, that it's something that is desirable and so forth, you develop desire. And because of this desire also, when you see and also when you get angry at somebody, it is because you hold on to that person or thing as having some kind of objective existence, and being hostile to you and so forth, objectively and so forth. And therefore, you see the person as hostile or something undesirable, and then develop anger or hatred towards them. And so one of my friends, an American psychiatrist, Aaron Beck, has once told me that when you become angry at somebody, actually what happens is the mind sees the other person to be totally negative. But 90% of that is one's own mental projection. There's no negativeness in the person, total negativeness as such, but 90% of it is our own mental projection. And this is exactly what Master Nagarjuna also has mentioned when he says that our our karma and delusions arise from our wrong kind of mentation, some kind of inappropriate mentation. And so it's exactly as what Master Nagarjuna has said. And so in connection with the Four Noble Truths, we can also do the meditation on what are known as the 37 the practice, do the 37 practices on the 37 factors of enlightenment. And so with regard to these 37 factors, the first are the four establishment of mindfulness. And so with regard to that now, the first is the mindfulness of one's body. And so mindfulness of body, with that what you see is the cause of this body that we have, and then its nature and so forth, and therefore what it gives rise to and so forth. And when you see these conditions of the body itself, what it has come from, where it has come from, and its causes, and what it's like, and so forth, then you won't have that kind of attachment towards the beauty and the shape and the color and the feature and so forth of the body as such. And therefore, with that understanding, then you will see that the practice of mindfulness of body, developing the mindfulness of body, is with that you see the suffering nature of the body. And And then, with regard to feeling, the mindfulness of feeling, what you see is that whereas when you have some kind of a sensation, undesirable sensation, you want to get rid of it. But while you want to get rid of it, there is a sense of attachment to that wishing, to that wish to get rid of this undesirable sensation. And similarly, there is this craving for desirable sensation or feeling as well. And so you should see this feeling as having no permanence and with that, then when you understand the feeling has nothing nothing permanent, and because you want to get rid of the undesirable ones, and then the desirable ones are that what you want actually to develop, but then you see that there is no permanence in it. And then similarly it is the case with mind. And then through the is that when you check the mind and the body being impermanent, and then you see that there's no soul or no permanence and no independent existence of a self as well. And so through that, then you want to develop the antidote towards these wrong notions and of the body and mind and so forth, and then you develop the rest of the 37 practices or factors to enlightenment.
Tene parvati shijing shumche. Ta tene kolo tamachi songyari. Ta dodi kondri rang nala kolo tamadi. Dodi kondri rangi kolo tamali ngunzi chayni. Do songyari de. Ta jir dodi kondri kolo sumsungwa na shigi kolo tangbo, kolo parwa, kolo sumase haji yabache. Kolo sumbe senshi shayin du zane. 너도 공제 레디 이네 조조데 아니 데 귤라메 셰자 자웨도 아니 디시시비 닝분도 사디 버레 어떤 너디 겁라 아니 콜로 발베크도라 유지에서 춘이데 지심부 땅을 봐봐 다 디시브 닝분 더qabla 캄 디시 닝부 세하게 답게 천시로 쉬어야 쪼데 유전 외세기 때문에 상당고요. 유지외세 좀 마법에 심지 주니까래 리크타네 송고요래. 이제 쪼쪼지 상동서디 심 단동 샤야게 심 코랑 게 때문에 다 점을로 이거 주야지. 내가 니 과시도 와. 다들 콜로 디시비 닝분도 콜로 타메 될도고. 디시비 닝분도 거라 디송도 와. 자들이 인도 콜로 담부 거라 den시 자야산지가 좀 송. 되네 시신이 더거도라 den시 난게 고베 담바세야디 컨디션은 톱톱이야 봐. 고베 때문에 뭐 컨디션 뭐 고베 뭐 컨디션 봐. 디디 지침을 송야. 대전제니 아니 군중기 녀모베 군중기 남이 십시 차와지 태고요. 가르슬라나 군중 자와도 머리버리. 그래서 시보콜로 창가바 손에 뒤때에 하나 주인 수인들잖아요. 통만 머리버서 태고도가. 저 산제베 최근 안에 동해 자와 가르슬라 동해 자와도 미시버리스. 디송도. 저다 드린들잖아요. 미시베 남샤 지침버지 셔야래야 그 인루도 셔오로다. 그래서 미시버리 니샤네. 균제를 몸에 미시버 찍다. 대코난이는 몸에 미시버 찍. 균제를 몸에 미시버냐 코에 싸워디 대코난이는 몸에 머리버 되게 자영화 인도잖아요. 되게 한다 쉬하기. 아니 취미 이제가 남도 그 조다야 그 싸워디 유 담버진베 덴진디 자영구여버디 세비스타데. 자 드리 뭐 인도잖아요. 되게 쉬하기. 취미 이제가 남도게 내줄래 책 겨르지게 상당하라 남도가 조다하게 시절고 차단지서 유트다데 팔문에 여대봐 랑문에 여대봐 지금 로라 낭나도 셴니 텐제기다 댄징기 잡아 대네 취미지가 남도 깨네 쫓다기여도 사비살아도가 되기 쉬어야돼 미도 자장 구르주타면 남도가 쫓다버렸으나다 아메리카 센지버디 송대 아까 찍고 차대기요 아래 그래서 드리버 이두산에 어다 미시버 균제를 먹고 미시버 되게 싸워토서디 대코는이는 뭐 머리버 되게 지게버 인두산에 대코는이는 뭐 머리버 세버지 쉐발라 대코는 이게 인루 그리버 쉐고요 아래 디 시신기 슝은 알아라 지시버 송용도 뭐보는 이제 정신 터도 아다 때네 딱섬 좀 와도 원이 좀 해봐도 송도가 다디 유지회세디 가자 고베 때바디 지치버시다 때나 밥도가 다데네 콜로 타면 지치부 인분 되거라 유지회세 남샤데 송네 뺏고 줄라면을 송는 시 뺏고 던 그때네 아니 용매 가서 다 시바디 못 짜인 것도가 그 정신 남다 임부지 그 정신을 서로다 제다 그 치매 못 깨매봐 될 때네 아니 좀 루보 임부지 주인 거 알아 봐 좀 루보로 와니다 연대는 니된 실실 송샤 되게 주인 것도가 그래서 다디 유전외세 디그 치매 못 깨매다 정신의 치매 라바 중매바 인도자네 다 콜로 발베거도네 전도 정신이 뭐 송샤바 되게 더 또인도자네 담버집에 댄지기냐 못세 아다 제 차단걸로 깨세 자와 세리걸로 그 세점 릭점 영점 그等于되라 치명 오리야 말이스 정신이 타고 정신이 왜 싸워지레스 근데 이번에는 딘이기 때문에 아니 고된 줘야다 더도 남진 줘야 돼 도시 줘야 것도 산지 고바사지 예바디 도시 줘야 것도 다디 레자가 쉬운 나라로 소송이야래 다 대시 변한단 가서 대시 남샤 리베 줘야 돼 로면 초절랑보 딩나기 참에 딩나기다 간다 자르송 인데마 로면 쳐자기 참한 남지 류니베 거리야 쉬우지 14주 정도가 아니 디마도 스텝이나 다치던 거냐 레사버지 설레베 이진이야 이때버지 싸운다나 치성 그 잡아 대적이 네번지기 이때버지 용되게도 그래서 디리 이르잖아다 레자가 슝기 자 콜로 발베카도라 가자 콜로 담베카도라 den시 송샤바지 소 리베 줘야지 소레샤 어다디 아니 레자가 슝 아니 좀 더 랑게 있는 까테다 아니 대다가 공지 아니 루루 yap사로 소 대다가 자샤베다 땡주르스 아주 샤데야 디디 다 할레버 소 리베 좀니 다나샤게 비슬로이 봐 어디르샤 어제 두도 청거를 뭐 숨사 두 시기야 다디 자 리존다 콜로 당부 산제의 추기 지 가소래 지 콘데니 세티치셰 다 콘데니 세디 다 디기 에네 시보 코야 자와 미시베 체야 다 디기 미시벌 다 그게 가서 쪼르고 균제를 먹어지다 아니 데코너니를 먹어지 이게 왜 인도산에 딘이갈로 땡중고 따와 되게 세인 거야 아래 균제기 땡중기 따야 고차네 균제를 먹어 머리 버렸어야 다디 저부줄을 알아버지 성다인 거야 알아 다 저부줄을 떠봐서도 마세 규연 저부를 떠버리스 ngô kanshi gyu saage pen dokshil pen dokshi ge ngo zhuya de pen daksha la de ne pen dokshi de zhuba pen daksha me na pen dokshi de tu ma 대소 더 마세 gyu ngo ni zhuba ina tu namji chen gyul de go ma to zhul yong xing ma 그 gyul de ba ina gyu de geji gyu me sa 그 랑이 geji gyul de na 규디 제불보다 저선 균제서야 그 때네 샤야시 마도 공원이지 규르르땡에 공원이지 제불르땡에 메도와 자자가 제부 규르 때에 땡중 조선데 균제기 땡중체 다 디바바바 사운당인데 귤 제불 때베다 땡주 디가나 때나 딱베 땡주 디가나 상당연데 다 대코나니는 뭐가 머리고 디세야기 거리기도 가. 그래서 땡주로야 균적이 땡주사지다 때나 딱베 땡주사다 땡주니日本니지. 균제 땡주도 콜로 당불거네 저는 마송. 다 때나 딱베 땡주도 콜로 800거도 다 잔듯이 송여리. 아니 고불로 주고 다 어디 때나 딱베 땡주 그 남샤 찌 치면다 고물로 주고 쏜들지 송고도 삼기 미쳐버리셔. 저 드린 인도산에다 딱 콜로를 무슨사도 세는 티단도 소치도 와. 그래서 콜로 담에 거둘러 심人心 여서 디다 드셔 먹고 레인도산에 아니 나 람디디 조 뉴메 다 뉴모스네도 가다 심다 차라 치네. 된저기 때문에 아니 심 차와디기 이니 람경을 깨야지다 난절을 줄여야지 송용도가 저서 대 베너지 야 라톰부지야 자오총나 그 헛갈래 또 중마르와 고갈래 갈래 토로 베너 겐즈지야 또 심베이는 겐다 당군이버 숨버시버신 도사 토로 어디는시 콜로를 무슨 부티도 콜로를 무슨 디슈데니 규지도 잡아디 송용데 라는 데시샤 와다디 또 지기 가시고를 보게 삼바 자치중 아니 저 자치중 저 자치중 되게 캐버리 여바 인도산에 아니 도드갱 더비나래야 아니 태보 치중사 송거야래 제니 태보 치중 써야지 아니 즉 삼바다 저하다 저 자치중 간에 송거야를 마도 디 뜻을 택맨 써야지 뜻을 저 샤바를 마도 디 tor제게서 싸우는 말이 빨리 슝도 산지게 쭉 멍시 차죠 뒷면은 디 레자가 슝나 송셔버디 고 싫어고야 랑서거려 말이 그래서 디 인도 빨리 슝디 디 템베 멋지들이셔 다 디간이야 아니 산 레자가 추기 디간아 아니 디야 게르다 다 서도 다제 게스톤야다 아니 서도 그러지셔 어디 그러지 저 상가를 좀 된데 냥을 됐으면 젤리야 아니 태보치고 산지가 말이 있으네 레자 산지가 말이 있으네 순에 숙성부 중요하래 근데 고불루주기 대신 거로 송샤 안데디한테 우버리지트는 샴데 대신 거로 송야래 안 들지도야다 리우당보들이 저는 샴데 말 대신 거로 송야래 다가는 신기 랭댕기 대신 거로 송야래 아니 잡아보면 너도 그냥 걸래 대신 거로 리우지 로송도가 리우니버디메 저 송야래 아니 랭댕기 숙성부 주야래 아니 시월에 주야래 서들이 이르잖아요 날 야간에 태보시모사 이제 까 말하시는 순간인데 정도가 더럽게서 이네 지 자나가 추준승에 이제 가시게 다엔 태보시모사 이제 까 말하시는 안라고 대낭식에 있는 상하 산지 처 말하시는 순간인데 더럽게서 이네 연대기야래 날 이네 또 중요하래 어디 늦으셔 사다와 별 강생의 종을 내 다라시는 것이 ken지 시워츠 에는 산지게 배 날린지 추규 능신체는 설대바 인도산에 별 강생의 종을 유대로 산지게 줘야지 택보시 중 아도 저 자상하지 말이 ken지 시워츠 능력이 아니 가르사디 직도 한다 대코는 이거 잡지사 사지게 가당가 라미기 람 두는 것도 괜찮으시고 저 들으시도 아니 내대 뭐시버 아다 와르너시 산스크리트 유니버시티 프로페서 오버데야 그래 공 시작해봐 좀 레자 시작해봐래 공 아니 둥고기 관리야 research nanche di tandala ini ko 배율이야 사카셰 페도가 사직 배율 페도잖아요. 거기 디 palm leaf 갈이야 티셔버지기 쇼자지 공시샤 디 제제디 공수가 송윤도잖아요. 디 파발레 심기 집중해야 되래샤. 어다 파발레 심기 집중 띵알라메 드시중기요래. 어다디 쇼자지 공시샤 디 렉자기 숨시디 렉자기 좀단디 십접에 렉자기 좀단다 찍버려샤스 콩 렉자 캐바인드잖아요. 렉자기 숨시디 토네 아다 쇼자지 콩고 통데버디 증엔디 십접에 정에 아얀데와 이버디 자자 다다 다 추구도스 콩고 디송기 자 되네 콩고 디스이버 되네 전에 어다 아리안데 상아 아니 셰디셰샤스 다 아리안데 상아 셰디셰바 이르잖아요. 공기기gen 고불루르게 상한 잡아대 아니 그냥 고토야 샤디아래 대담에나 양을 저 상아 산집에 상아 산집에 취 말이 숨에 저기 고불루르게 찬여대베 나가 저것도 저때 찬트버리 마도 고불루르 말이 우모 싸우시는 장에 어느 고불루르 말이 쓰는 숨에도 도가 근데 숨고 저는 아니 아얀 고불루르 니샤 아얀다와레 니샤 나 잡아레 니샤 다 타마에니 가서 저거지 켄지 부드사도다 니샤오 치르다 아니 조지 니샤오 치르 남전나로 조지 상하고 송구도가 자산이 조지 니샤오 치르 사들들인데 다 대비하 말이 조지 별로 남전 자베 남전나라 상하고 닭들 나한테 상하 철로를 송도와 상하고라 가소래 추두투버시 냠니 저걸 송도가 자들이 인도산에 상하 라메기 저걸 이와도 세버리 어느 상하 라메기 질 상하 저거 다가는 신기변은 택신기 저거도 저디 아니 거두나를 민두스 로규마와즈 팀민두스 라베이나 딘네즈 가가르샤 좀된데 빨리 저거 송야다 지금 빨리 까되는 송도야 생에디 용라 전에 송샤버지다 아니 좀전에 양아는 대사를 제일 유수 정보로서 어떻게 되게 용라 전에 거두 나샤버지 차도와 그걸로 유나 그게 아래 다 시진은 너도 돼야지 강사 레다 정어로 송샤버지 마도 투무로 송샤버지 레면도가 내가 유다과디 셔되게 변은 시르님은 알아야 아니 시르보다 아니 파고 제네시 저르는 게 알아 저어도 진실을 같이 하네 그래서 뒤에 인도산에 뒤질래 마다가 아니 다음에 사이 지금 나와 롱수 좀 못하게 지기 좀 된데 뭐 띵에서는 여보쇼 아니 셔리보다 아니 파워 제네스니 졸린 나베 그돌이야 될레베이나 아니 제네스 통 못하게 밑에기 제 못하게 밑에기 아니 셔리 집로 좀 있어 통고로다 로야 자 뒤에 인도 그 간다 시르님은 나라 아니 셔리보다 저르는 나요 다가는 신기 되게 용bom바다 용니치도 좀 개도서 나로리야 아니 지금 참바다 자양다 아니 구상다 어떤 되게 아니 서비 전주서부터 주님들이야 저르는 먹는 것도 와 산데고 뒤질라다 지글이야 송샤바지다 뒤질라다 지금 올라 나가셔바지 마다 용라전에 나메바도 세버리 사들이 이거 이두산에 용라전에 송샤바 디디 아니 실시 디디 조스네도 디디 실샤네 로규마즈 로규나라 메데바디 다 시엔투야르바 사들이 인도 어디야 시행과시래샤 어디르지
ये पाली परंपरा और संस्कृत परंपरा दोनों परंपराएं हैं जीवित परंपराएं हैं संस्कृत परंपरा से संस्कृत परंपरा के संध निर्मोचन सूत्र में ऐसा कहा गया है संध निर्मोचन सूत्र में तीनों प्रकार के
So with regard to the teaching of the Buddha, Of course, in the third turning of the, according to the Sandinamojana Sutra, it mentions three turnings of the wheel of the Dharma, three sermons of the Buddha, broadly speaking, and which are the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, being the first turning of the teaching of the First Noble Truth, the first turning of the wheel of the Dharma, and then the Prajnaparamita Sutras being included in the second turning of the wheel of the Dharma, and Sandinimochana Sutra itself being the third turning, sutra of the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma. But mainly what we should understand is the main third turning of the wheel of the Dharma should be understood to be that of the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, which is the source of Mahayana, Maitreya's Mahayana Uttara Tantra. So in this third turning of the wheel, the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, what is mainly emphasized is the nature of the mind itself being clear light or luminous and clear or aware. And whereas in the second turning of the wheel of the Dharma, the Prajnaparamita, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, what is shown is that the nature of the mind is that of empty, and therefore, because it's the nature of the mind is empty, meaning that it doesn't have any independent objective existence as such, therefore the defilements that are on the mind are said to be temporarily there. Whereas in the third turning of the wheel, the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, it says that the nature of the mind itself is luminous, and thereby it emphasizes the subjective luminosity of the mind, whereas the second turn, the Prajnaparamita Sutras, emphasizes the objective luminosity of the nature of the mind, which is emptiness, and therefore understanding that the mind itself being devoid of any defilements from the beginning in its intrinsic nature, and we should see the possibility of overcoming the defilements from our mind. Whereas now, if we look at the three turnings of the wheel of the Dharma, the first turning, the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, is like laying a big framework or foundation for the teaching of the Buddha. And then in the second turning, the Prajnaparamita Sutras, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, what is emphasized is the objective, the ontological status of the mind, and particularly emphasizing on the cessation itself. Now, when it comes to talking about cessation, what we have to see is that cessation is that state of overcoming suffering and its origin, and therefore the suffering is biggest suffering is based on our ignorance, within which there is the ignorance about the causality, law of causality, and the ignorance about the true nature of or true reality of things. And therefore, we should understand what this ignorance is. And therefore, we should understand that the ignorance about the law of causality itself is, in turn, rooted in the ignorance about how things really are. And therefore, as I already talked about, the American psychiatrist who said that our called the negativity in someone whom we are angry at is 90% of it is our own mental projection, and therefore this kind of ignorance about causality is also called rooted in the ignorance, which is ignorance about the reality of things, which means that holding on to things having some kind of objective independent existence, and because of which we also have the notion of the wrong notion of causality and engage in the wrong process of overcoming or developing happiness. And so in the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma, it is mentioned that according to the Mahayana Uttara Tantra by Maitreya, it says the defilements that are in our mind are temporary or adventitious, whereas the qualities that we can develop, the basic quality of the mind is there naturally in us. And therefore, this is where we need to develop the cessation and the path and so forth. And so, in the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, what is shown is the how to overcome the clinging to some kind of independent, true existence and things, developing the antidote to our wrong notion of the reality of things. And then in the third turning, the basic nature of the mind itself being luminous and awareness is emphasized, and therefore the defilements are not in the intrinsic nature of the mind itself. And from these two, the fact that the mind is empty or devoid of any true existence, and then the fact that the mind's nature, basic nature, is its luminosity, then we can talk about how we can overcome the defilements that are within ourselves. And therefore, when it comes to talking about the Four Noble Truths, the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, through reason and arguments, we can find that it is done very well by Master Dignaka, and in his text on the logic and epistemology, and particularly called his compendium of valid cognition, and then that is further elaborated by Dharmakirti. So by studying these texts, you can give the text by Nagarjuna, Dharmakirti, and we can actually gain very firm and strong conviction in the fact that it is possible for us to overcome the defilements that are within ourselves, with regard to the Four Noble Truths, that we can overcome suffering and its origin, and that it is possible for us to actualize the true cessation within ourselves, and through the true development, cultivating the true path in ourselves. And therefore, from this, what we can understand is that the Sanskrit tradition is based on reason, and to prove the Four Noble Truths. And this is what is done in the Nalanda tradition. And therefore, we have this broad understanding of the first turning of the wheel. This is the turning, the teaching on the Four Noble Truths, laying a very broad foundation of the teaching of the Buddha, which teaches about, touches on the nature of samsara and nirvana. And then, of course, when we don't understand the causality that brings about samsara and also nirvana, we have the ignorance about the causality, law of causality. And in order to overcome that ignorance, we need also to understand, the law of causality. But then, in order to really get rid of this ignorance completely, we also need to understand that not only things, the suffering comes from its causes, not only that the fact that the results come from its causes, but the cause which gives about a result, its result also is dependent on, or is in other words, relative to the effect that it brings about. And therefore, by understanding that not only the effects come from its causes, but then the causes are also dependent on its effect, we can understand how things are truly dependent on other factors, and therefore, of the two, the causality, law of causality, we can understand it through the understanding of the Four Noble Truths, which we can understand how causes bring about its results in the Four Noble Truths, and then the second, the ignorance about the true nature of things, how things really are, can be overcome by understanding how things are dependent in terms of its designation, being designated. And therefore, this is what is done well in the second turning of the wheel. And Master Nagarjuna also does that, emphasizes this, the dependence by designation as well. And then the third turning, emphasizing on the nature of the basic nature of the mind itself. And so, because of this, then because the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma and its called commentary, like Maitreya's Mahayana Tantra emphasizes on this basic nature, then there is also a progression of the subtlety of mind. I mean, in terms of subtlety of mind, I mean, it is also explained in the Tantras as well. And so, the master on the basis of so when it comes to making this distinction between Mahayana and Hinayana, it is not so to show that the Hinayana practices are something we should discard, and that the Mahayana is something to be adopted, but it is on the basis of the broadness of one's attitude, one's practice, and the result.
About the Tibetan Buddhist
Some
tradition.
teachings are not at all to be discarded, but it must be seen as the foundation
Perhaps
of Mahayana.
I would like to take a few questions. Chikduge, microphone. I think one
As well as
microphone
Bhaviveka, Shandarakshita, and Shandideva
is to
and so
hold
forth
here
have done that.
in the center. Then those people who have some questions then come. Oh yes, that also you see, you can put in the center. Yes?
Good afternoon, Your Holiness. Recently you had gone to Chhattisgarh and meditated in the caves in which Nagarjuna had meditated. And could you share your experiences and what did you feel about Nagarjuna meditating in those caves and your own presence there and reading those texts there?
어이. 그 냠뇨에 가. 리. 그래서 그게 하다 가서 저기. Raipur, yes. Raipur, yes.
Chhattisgarh, yes.
Since my first visit there, I think the professor told me near, you see that town, one Nagarjuna's cave there, and he mentioned monsoon retreat Nagarjuna used to spend there. So as soon as I heard that, I determined I must go there as a follower or student of Nagarjuna, a great sort of thinker. So then, last year, I managed to visit that cave. Yes, not much time, not easy to reach there. When we reach there, our energy half almost gone. So not much sort of serious meditation. So nothing sort of special. However, one occasion near Nagarjuna Kandra, Andhra Pradesh, when I give some teaching there, before the main teaching, I also give some teaching, explanation about the Paticcasamuppada, the subtle level of Paticcasamuppada. There, while I sort of explaining, some, let's say, deeper understanding and real feeling, with feeling, which is developed. And then, of course, the Nagarjuna's philosophy, the Paticcasamuppada, the subtle level, I think since now over 60 years, I meditate or analyze daily basis. I think every day, maybe 10, 20 times thinking or some kind of analytical meditation. So decade by decade, the experience becomes deeper, deeper, deeper. Still, I never sort of say I have sort of the real realization of that. I cannot say, but I think some deeper level understanding that I develop. So, very, very helpful. Altruism is own way to sort of combat or to tackle the self-centered attitude and the extreme selfishness, these things. The understanding about the shunyata, patita samuppada, subtle level, it's really, you see, creates sort of a new outlook to everybody, to anything, anything. Yourself, myself, and human beings, or entire phenomena, appears independent existence. But as a result of sort of understanding about the Nagarjuna sort of theory of emptiness, really now appears in these things as a sort of mirage survey, like that. It appears something objectively exists, but with the understanding, nothing objectively exists. So these appears as an illusion or mirage, like that. So it really affects our destructive emotion, which based on ignorance. So that I can say, you see, according to my own experience, really this is not just a philosophical sort of just idea, but really affects your destructive emotion. Like that. So my own case, this is last 60 years effort. So not easy.
हेलो, तो जैसा कि प्रश्न कभी पूछा
Or
गया,
some, when I was in the cave, I didn't notice. You see, some people saw one white snake. So some people, oh, there's something significance. I don't think. That's too much superstition. Oh? Oh, yes. Nagarjuna, you see, the painting of Nagarjuna always, you see, the five snakes had. So sometimes, you see, some people ask me, why that? You see, there are some sort of stories. I didn't believe fully. But then I jokingly telling, in order to protect mosquito, so those snake is ready to eat mosquito. Of course, Nagarjuna's head, you see, seems to be with full hair, not like his head. Then I think mosquito, immediately go there. In fact, yesterday I joked with him. You see, if mosquito come in my room, I will tell mosquito, go there. One my friend, you see, his head is ready to serve blood. Yes, that's it.
तो अभी ये प्रश्न पूछा गया कि परम पावन जी रायपुर में एक गुफा है, नागार्जुन की गुफा, तो वहाँ आपको जाकर के कैसा अनुभव हुआ, उसके बारे में ये प्रश्न किया गया। परम पावन जी बता रहे हैं कि वहाँ पर एक प्रोफेसर थे, तो उन्होंने बताया कि इस एरिया में, इस क्षेत्र में नागार्जुन की एक गुफा है और नागार्जुन यहाँ पर मानसून के दौरान आया करते थे और ध्यान भावना या यहाँ पर निवास करते थे। तो मैं नागार्जुन का अनुयायी होने के नाते, उनका एक चेला होने के नाते मैं भी वहाँ देखने के लिए गया। हालांकि जाना काफ़ी मुश्किल था, लेकिन फिर भी वहाँ पर किसी प्रकार से मैं पहुँचा। तो ऐसा भी कुछ लोगों ने कहा कि वहाँ पर नागर उस गुफा में एक सर्प था। तो सर्प मैंने तो नहीं देखा, शायद हो सकता है कि वहाँ एक सफ़ेद सर्प था। तो अभी कि जैसा कि लोग कहते हैं कि उनके, कुछ लोग ऐसा भी पूछते हैं कि नागार्जुन के 5 सर क्यों थे। तो मैं मजाक में कहता हूँ कि शायद उनको मच्छर न काट पाए, मच्छर को काटने से बचने के लिए शायद ये 5 सर होंगे। तो प्रत्येक सांप वो मच्छर को काट लेता होगा, इत्यादि बातें। नागार्जुन कुंडा में टीचिंग के में जब धर्म उपदेश दे रहा था, तो उस दौरान मैंने प्रतीत समुत्पाद पर व्याख्या दी। लगभग मुझे 60 वर्ष हो चुके हैं। मैं हर बार 60 वर्षों से मैं प्रतीत समुत्पाद अर्थात शून्यता का अभ्यास करता आ रहा हूँ, और रोज़ लगभग 10 या 20 बार मैं जो जो विपश्यना है उसके बारे में अभ्यास करता हूँ, और प्रतीत समुत्पाद के जो सिद्धांत हैं उसका अभ्यास करता हूँ। तो हालांकि मुझे कोई ख़ास अनुभव नहीं हुआ, मैं ऐसा नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि मैं काफ़ी पहुँचा हुआ इंसान हूँ, मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा अनुभव नहीं हुआ है, लेकिन ऐसा करने से, इस प्रकार का अभ्यास करने से मुझे काफ़ी लाभ हुआ है, मुझे संतुष्टि हुई है। तो इसके द्वारा जो स्वार्थ की भावना है वो नष्ट होती है, अहंकार की भावना नष्ट होती है, और दूसरों को मदद करने की एक हमारे अंदर जो भावना है वो उत्पन्न होती है। तो इस प्रकार के जो अभ्यास से स्वयं तो फ़ायदा होता ही है, दूसरों को भी फ़ायदा होता है। शून्यता को समझने से जितनी भी चीज़ें, जितने भी धर्म हैं वो स्पष्ट हो जाते हैं, उनके प्रति हमारी जो सोच है वो अच्छी हो जाती है, स्पष्ट हो जाती है। हालांकि जितने भी चीज़ें हैं जो हम समझते हैं कि उनका अस्तित्व वास्तव में है, उनका अस्तित्व वास्तव में नहीं होता है, वो अपने तरफ से स्वतंत्र नहीं होती हैं। तो जब हम प्रतीत समुत्पाद अर्थात शून्यता को समझते हैं तो उसकी जो अस्तित्वता है उसको ठीक से समझ सकते हैं। जो हमारे बुरे विचार हैं, बुरी भावना है, वो हमारे बुरे विचार हमारे क्लेश की वजह से आते हैं, हमारे अंदर बुरे क्लेश उत्पन्न होते हैं, इस वजह से दुर्विचार हमारे अंदर उत्पन्न होते हैं। तो ये सारी की सारी चीज़ों को अर्थात क्लेशों को नष्ट करने के लिए इस प्रकार की जो भावना है, इस प्रकार के जो विपश्यना या साधना है, मैं रोज़ अभ्यास करता हूँ। तो इससे लाभदायक है, इससे फ़ायदा मिलता है। ये ऐसा ही नहीं है कि केवल ये मुझे ही फ़ायदा मिलते है, सारे लोगों को फ़ायदा मिलती है। जहाँ तक मैं अपना उदाहरण दूँ तो ये अभ्यास करने से आया है। 60 वर्ष तक इसका अभ्यास करने के बाद ही ऐसा अनुभव हुआ है कि मुझे इसका अभ्यास करने से कुछ लाभ हुआ है।
Next question. Come here. Yes.
Yeah, can I ask
I think 10.
Yeah.
Perhaps 10 people who have some question, just come here. Yes.
Okay, in my early days, I knew Buddhism as just plain Buddhism. But lately I know that there are various sects in Buddhism. It is Mahayana is there, Theravada is there, Vajrayana. Now this is added to my confusion, and I don't know, one, what is the difference? Two, if I have to follow Buddhism, which of the sects do I need to follow?
Karsa. I think firstly, in order to make food, you need different sort of the substance, ingredients, and prepare well. Then actual sort of they make food. Then there are kurim, order. So all material is put there, not the way. So similarly, knowing all these sort of the materials and the whole structure, then actual sort of practice. Now usually we call Atisha Dibumkara Kara sort of worship London. You see, he sort of advised the practice the way step by step. So then I think best explanation like Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrin Chamo, very good. However, unless you know the kasate, take on the Pindu Dungi, she needs you Dini leg dog sing. Then she call on Judo because of Trishin Shakes. Seven Changbe, Gibson Taba, then Talam Sao Super Chinjilo said that so Dirisha. Right. Shaya, the Lamrim Nala, the Sunshagi, Jamdru di Kiu Chungmu want to say Jamdru. Sanjay Tumu be Jamdu Chatuya Mare. Sanjay Tumu be Jamdu Chayati, Denshi, Kon Judo, Shebe, Guane, any Chokunjo, Washiba Chani. Tate Dungan get double Sanjay Chani. Kanda Cho Yangde, Watchebetone. Tate didn't have a Chokunjo de 시원 더자다 테베 쳐 쳐디 못쳐버지다 뒤등겐게 땀바테 아니 ten시 생내 렉송바 사디 임버지 ten시 땀바 사디 임버지 셰버제네 아니 산제를 교순 줘야 되네 긴두를 교순 줘야 대대비 대권하니 대원도 주대바달 긴두구조 스럽셔봤다 되네 아니 초수 못쳐버지 토하니 교순 줘왔다 디 산제베 짱종 어마 차대와래 셴 내주 동을 지금 텔레교베 아니 네버 군조를 이치고 군조를 여버 이치네 대바사디 패지 맞는 신앙 투모르성기 모두벌에 요래 이시쳐버지네 간다 동의지 동을래 군조가 접그랬으니 가서 우리 보기 이지다 아니 군조를 째지도다 로테전 로데가로 전다디 신앙 투모 패지 샤토르성기 자, 드리인도 상제베 짬로 차롱한데 두지기 동해를 통네. 텔레 탈외 탈발라 못처니 탈바 딘제기 최군조라 때문에지. 딘제기 최군조 땡겐게 땀바디 아니 땀발라나 봐봐. 뒤수신도 주베 긴두디 아니 가서 우리 벽에 탈바 주베 저 라는 마시고 임었다 뒤시없이 고도가. 저장대 름림나라 dia sabshana yamare ngone chena pena lamni chamul shashabaina kiun dingi gode tenshin namsha ngojna ya ti ngal lanche maji jermje ti sungbe surje detanas 담바신이 태고치주 관계급수냐 빼 개천부시는 송야레스 사진데 인도산에 아니 가서 로마 띠베 림바야 추 제자도 잘라 사시도가 그런 치면 알아 디 젊으실 놈이 좀 남정에 잡아차대 되잖아요. 또 무슨 그림 뒤 템포로지다. 가담 고마도 송원나 신신들지. 사다들이 인도 아주 딩해셔야 돼. 아주 텐데게. 가담 슝바와 치단디 패지 내사도 들으성기. 디 뭐도 나라야. 주단 담반 남다는 사자라서 군조숨 사. 그림 되는 신신에 티야디. 가담 슝바와 치단들이셔. 가담 슝바와 치단 되기도 하네. 아니 가서 우리 태고 다 태고 치중기 지금 잠준도다 지는 수도 셔버셔 당무시 거베 그도라 라다 보발라 동의지 동에 조체네 아니 가라전에 교선들 교세네다 또 송샤디 그래도 I cannot explain through my broken English, so I have to rely a translator. Now translate.
तो अभी ये इनका प्रश्न था कि मैं बचपन में
Did I?
श्रद्धा के अनुसार शरण गमन जाना सभी धर्मों में समान रूप से है। सभी लोग अपने अपने धर्म को जो धर्म
Sorry. So what was His Holiness was teaching in Tibetan basically was that he mentioned that in order to understand the teaching, in order for us to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, we really need to understand what the teaching of the Buddha is and how to cultivate, integrate those teachings within ourselves so that we are well introduced into the teaching, well introduced to the teaching itself. And by understanding the real Dharma itself, which is this principle of which actually we develop within ourselves to lead us out of samsara, suffering and its origin, then you see the truth in the teaching of the Buddha himself, and then you see the teacher himself as being someone infallible in giving such teachings. And when you admire and take refuge in the Buddha like that, then you also begin to see those who actually put his teachings into practice sincerely are the Sangha community. And it's not only that we should take refuge in the Buddha by saying, as it is usually taught, that the samsara, we should fear the terror of samsara and in general, and then the lower realms of existence in particular, and then see the Buddha Dhamma and as Sangha and Sangha having the power to lead us out. But we should and then take refuge in the teacher and then also the Sangha. And that is actually what Master Tsongkhapa also mentions in his Lamlam Channel.
Also the preparation for next good life, so that life after life we can practice continuously. Then the Shantadevas 6th chapter, practice how to deal with anger, hatred. It's very, very helpful. Then 8th chapter, how to develop infinite altruism. And then Nagarjuna's the first chapter of Ratnamala also include about shunyata. That's the method to achieve nirvana. So these are basic practice. I myself also practice these daily basis. Even including dream, I analyze these things. So that's then some sort of the Tantrayana practice come later, no hurry. Without this, like food without salt. So no matter how you say, beautiful sort of good material, without salt, no taste. Like that. So these two things, my own sort of daily practice of altruism, practice of wisdom which understand the ultimate reality. That is shunyata, the high form of anatma. Okay, next question.
I'm blessed to be here and I love you. My question is, in your first session, you mentioned about how the education system should be and how to create a joyous community. So we are working on a similar principles at the outskirts of Pune. We have a school, ashram and community where all parents and we have come together and we have started a school. So if I invite you, would you visit us? That is my question.
Yes, of course. I love visit different places.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So please keep contact. It's my office.
Yes.
And then I think occasionally I visit South India because this is the major Buddhist institution established in Karnataka state. So occasionally, I think this winter also I'm going there. So then you mentioned Pune.
Yeah, it's at outskirts of Pune, not in the city. It's on
That's okay. That's
hilltop.
okay.
Yeah.
From one, you see, monastic institution. I think a few hours drive, Pune.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I will see.
Thank you very much.
Oh. If you, yeah, if that visit materialize, then not simply, you see, my talk and then finished. Not that way. Some serious discussion. That's very good.
That's what I'm looking forward for.
Very good. Then maybe I also, you see, ask some sort of scholars also join with that meeting. Then could be useful. Huh? Something practical, not just idea. Huh? Most of my talk, just like idea. So those experienced teachers, then they come together, then some realistic sort of concrete plan can develop. Like that. Okay.
Hello, I'm a disciple and I seek your blessings. And I wanted to ask you if you can give us some of tips which you use in your own meditations to help us improve our practice.
Karsa? Not clear. Oh. The clear instruction for meditation, both single-pointed meditation and analytical meditation, the Kamalashila, main disciple of Shantarakshita, who also carries some heated discussion with some Chinese scholars in Tibet. So his Gumrim, that I think useful. And then there are many books, you see, the detailed sort of explanation or instruction, the meditation. I don't know, available in Hindi or in English translation, that I don't know. So, one difficult thing is you have to learn Tibetan. That's difficult. But some books, if you're really serious, then you can keep contact with my sort of office. Then we can send some books about meditation. Okay. Yes, next question.
Yeah, Your Holiness, I have heard one story about
And
you.
then also, I think you can inquire some books from Sanat Institution, and also the Tibetan libraries, Dharmasala. You will get some books. Okay.
Yes, Your Holiness, I heard one story about you that while you were having one gathering, one of the monk comes and he tells you that the Chinese have killed many of the Tibetan monks. And at that time, you tell everybody, let's stand up and pray for the Chinese soldiers. So I just want to ask, how is it possible for you, for any person, when the people are killing our own people and we have so much of compassion and love for the opponents? How is it possible to develop, and is it possible for everybody to develop?
That you should read and meditate 6th chapter, which explanation come, I think, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, like that. You read that. So after all, you see, use common sense. Yeah. Someone, you see, done something negative, and then let anger, any help to solve the problem. Look, Palestine and Israel problem. Since 48, you see, violence, counter-violence, that way. Even American policy regarding Iraq, violence, counter-violence. And now latest Syria. Then they now in Nigeria these problems. Then also the Ukrainian problems. The violence never sort of work properly. Once you committed violence, then unexpected sort of consequences always happen, no matter what your motivation and your goal is something right. I know Mr. Bush, wonderful person. His motivation, I'm quite 100% sure, very good motivation. Good aim, but method use force. So unexpected consequences also happen. So therefore, violent method is outdated. We should not sort of thinking about violence. So that's our sort of firm conviction. Then I always was telling regarding the Tibetan problem, our sort of way to carry this struggle is to see a sort of struggle between power of truth with compassion, power of gun with anger or distrust, fear. So we believe power of truth based on compassion, as I mentioned earlier, transparent, consistency, right? Somewhere. No? See, at the beginning, maybe weak, but the strength or power of truth always remain. Power of gun, short period. Short term, decisive, but long term, weak. And it is quite natural. So, use force, violence, counter-violence. And violence creates more hatred here. Hatred is the source of problem. So only proper way solving problem or conflict is talk and reduce the other sort of intensity of negative emotion. And through talk, reduce suspicion, fear, and sort of hot sort of temper way. Then cool down. That's the only way. That's the human way. So we believe that, so we also implement these things. Like that.
Thank you.
Next question?
मैं हिंदी में पूछना चाहता हूँ।
Yes, Hindi. Oh, okay.
जो भगवान बुद्ध को जो ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ,
Closer.
जो महात्मा बुद्ध को जो ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ, ये छोटे से बड़े लोग कहते हैं, या अनाड़ी से लेके बड़े पढ़ाई तक कहते हैं, मगर उनको ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ इसका मतलब उनको क्या मिला? ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ इसका मतलब उनको क्या मिला?
हाँ, लेकिन ज्ञान प्राप्त हुआ क्या मिला?
Hasa. Marwa. 디 치드 진이 된 캠바스는 샤기 거베조디 디 심뷰 장리번 예랑가야 예고메세네 어디 송샤다 디기 간다 지 시지 kenyaga tundala lamkuba marwa shanla pen dogwala ani pen dogse yug kamda meba parlanya did shewarwa kamda meba parlanya did shebetane teta sambe da langdogne den shebash gwarwa dinde induzane 지도와 캠바장고 미쇼고 진입을 캠과를 대토도와
तो जैसा कि प्रश्न पूछा गया कि भगवान बुद्ध ने ज्ञान प्राप्त किया
And so, with regard to the understanding or the insight that the Buddha gained, it is said in Pramanavartika that we have no need of someone who knows how many insects and bugs there are, the number of bugs and so forth. But what he says, what is needed to understand is that we need to understand when you become enlightened, you need to understand how things are exactly, and then also need to understand the different mental dispositions in order to help others.
Without harming from the wild beings.
가사. 낭설 주브리스. 네. I don't know. 내 뒤져래. 가사 참배 고쳐지 세줘. 이제 kop수면 나는 가사. 참배 봉기. 뒤지 좀 봐야지. 저는 다들 지리니 지금 숨이 매매이 디디 참배 봉기 받다 가서래. 또 딘디디기 딘디디기 귤을 참바 또 첨부 영해지 보이나 치배 심정 너스디에 폐질 미용을 해서 땡행은 너 멋있어지대요 뭐냐 전에 그게다 검증네 최냠는 친구들인데 그것도 really 찍어도 돼도 지금 전샘되게 깨코네 칠천의 용문도 사 야 주변에 연배 그돌래 또 잡아 검증돼도 가게 지금은 누스 땡가랑 멋있어지 샤요
जैसा प्रश्न पूछा कि
So it is very important to understand that the power of affection. When you have a very powerful, when your affection, compassion, love are very powerful, then the external harms will not be any obstacle to you. They will not be able to harm you, like the wild animals and so forth. Some of my friends who are meditators have told me that they can hear some animals, wild animals, making noise around their place. But then when they meditate on loving kindness and compassion, they are not. These animals do not come near them at all. And so this is what happens. And even if when some animals are nearby, when they meditate on loving kindness, they're not harmed.
His Holiness. I want to ask you, like in Buddhism, Jainism, and in Hinduism, the common thing is about rebirth or moksha or nirvana, liberation. Now, in Jain and Hinduism, they believe Atma or Atman, which after the death takes the rebirth or gets liberated, nirvana. But Buddhism differs in Anatman, which is understood that there is a no soul. Then what gets liberated after the death, or what gets rebirth after the death?
As I mentioned,
the concept of Anatman, I'm not that clear, because I was just wondering that if there is a no Atma like concept in Buddhism, then what's get liberated? After Lord Buddha also got liberated, or there is a rebirth also.
Yes. So, as I mentioned this morning, the Buddhism not at all denying existence of self. Self is there. But the entity of self is just a mere designation. It appears on our mind something solid, I there. That's the illusion. If we investigate, we can't find. Even the basis of self is human self is human body and human mind. Human body, analyze, you can't pinpoint this is human body. Everything particle, like quantum physics now. Human mind also, no sort of charge 참해봐. 이내 균기차. 자다 균기차 봤어요. 이게 되게 러인바. 가다 강사 강도 독배 시 류를 차샤네. 봤자유는 니야메 등에. 셰베 귤을 때는 딱 보이는 전에 셰베 귤이 잖아 니야메 되지. 자 근데 이전에 풍몽하고 대다 짱을 신기도 만나봐 따오신 제로님은 송샤 되리. 강사 원이지 모르바 정도 마세 강사 강도 독배 시 풍몽하고 대다 짱 따르잖아 니야요 말이지. 따르잖아 많이 버디 매백게 좀 말이. 이거레스. 여당들 가르스는 때네 딱섬시리스. 따때래. 다 때네 딱섬기 셰바요래. 때네 딱섬기 류요래. 땐될 때네 딱배 강사 때는 딱 강사요. 된대기 강사티 통마의 매 타마의 매 네바나를 통해 때리 야왕실랭에 때리 셈슬럼나 락벨류 다 락바 루브르 류드셈 차외 류드셈 뇽메 류드셈 신도 차와지 샤야래
तो जैसा कि हम जानते हैं कि जो चित्त है उसकी संतति बराबर होती रहती है लेकिन संतति इतनी सूक्ष्म है उसको
So with regard to the mind, of course, it has its continuity, although it doesn't have any extension in terms of some space or anything like that. And so the Heart Sutra says even the five aggregates are empty of any inherent existence. So what it means is that although the self or the person and mind exists, but when you try to search for the mind and trying to look for some entity which is independent, existent, and so forth, but then you will not be able to find so. And so what that means is it doesn't mean that the mind is not there, but on the basis of the mind, that we have designation of a person, and then accordingly, because of that designated nature
Only
of the
one
person
more additional
or the
question.
mind, then we can talk about past and future lives or nirvana and so forth. Within the
Buddhism
mind
is
and
a
body, there
religion
is
of ahimsa,
the
like Jainism,
coarse, subtle, and the very
Jainism
subtle.
is very strict about vegetarian.
That's right.
I don't know. I'm not so learned about Buddhism, but in Buddhism, I have heard that certain followers, even non-vegetarian, is accepted. So I wonder, when the ahimsa is main like Jainism, then the non-vegetarian is the reason because of geographically it is accepted because it's spread throughout the world, or is it the Lord Buddha has permitted to eat non-vegetarian?
This is, I think, almost 1,000 years of some discussions. The Baba Bhikkha also, you see, discuss about that. Now, basically, in Buddhist Vinaya
Dhamaka
teaching,
by Viveka,
not prohibited eating meat. Any meat which you can see or you can doubt anyone, especially killed for you, that should not accept. So strictly Buddhist monk, one time I discussed with one Sri Lankan Buddhist monk. He told me, Buddhist monk, neither vegetarian nor non-vegetarian. Reason, no private kitchen. Taking baking bowl, alms bowl. Whatever they get, one vegetarian sort of family give vegetarian food, should accept. Non-vegetarian family give you non-vegetarian food, you should accept. That's Vinaya. According to Vinaya, like that. So, Thai Buddhist monk, Sri Lanka Buddhist monk, most of the Buddhist monk is like that. Then, some Buddhist sadhu, Mahayana sort of text, some completely prohibited. So many Chinese Buddhists, very strict vegetarian. And Vietnamese also is a vegetarian. And some flexible, like that. And Japanese also, you see some very strict vegetarian. Then some text in Buddhisadvayana, you see, not very strict. So we, as a Buddhist, in our settlement, right from the beginning, we did not start piggery, fishery, and poultry. Market, some meat available, then okay. But purposely, you see, killing is completely sort of stop like that. So then all major monasteries, they are common kitchen. Now last, I think, Lokzishmare. I think 10, 15 years, most of the major monasteries' common kitchen now stop serving meat. So completely vegetarian food. Then also you see many different centers in Europe, in America, you see, we urge them as a sort of, how should they, some kind of festival or something should serve pure vegetarian. Then individual, up to them, like that. So it is right. So we totally sort of committed promoting vegetarianism. Like that. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Then I think myself, 1965, I become vegetarian. Next 20 months. Then develop jaundice problem. So my sort of the nails, eyes, the whole body become yellow. So because of hepatitis. So later I describe jokingly, at that time I truly become living Buddha. Whole body yellow, become yellow. So then, I think in 1966 or 67, then you see Tibetan physician, Kasachoti, allopathic sort of physician, they both suggest to me I should return the original the diet like that. So then, meanwhile, we committed fully the promotion of vegetarianism. The promoter himself still remain non-vegetarian. Of course, you see, not daily basis, twice a week, like that. Then big hotel available, then okay, all right. And my own kitchen, basically my own kitchen, not serving non-vegetarian food, like that. Then me, twice a week, like that. Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.